Welcome to Guelph Fight Wrestle. I am Andrew Sennedra. This is the Canadian Funk Master, Captain Witchfingers, and we're talking about All Out, the aftermath after All Out. What an incredible show. Definitely blew me away. So much to talk about. We're going to open up with the awesome opener match, Miro versus These Nuts, Eddie Kingston, for the TNT title. Pretty hard-hitting. It didn't go the way I thought it would, in a sense of I didn't think Miro would have to have any sort of help like he did with the turnbuckle. So that's sort of I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like Miro should just be that beastly. I know they wanted to give maybe Kingston a bit more of a hand, I guess, but he's a monster. I think they should just he should be defeated by a monster one day or something or somebody's ultra super impressive performance, right?
And we saw that the fans were pissed off at the ref because they thought he won when the ref was like jumping and fixing the turnbuckle kind of thing, because he took a second or two to delay before he started counting kind of thing. So who knows, maybe we have a new champ if we had a different referee. They were both taking shots. You see Miro's chest, it's like black and blue from all those chops you took.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out, that you could see the welting. It was gonna sort of bliss. I wonder what it looks like today. Yeah, pretty good. A nice solid opener. Then we move on to Mox, John Moxley keeps getting all these old guys from Japan that are going ham on him. Those dudes are hardcore, and I think what people need to understand about some of these Japanese guys who can take on Moxley and his abuse is it's a different type of wrestling. It's a different type of hardened dude. They're hard dudes in Japan. Anyways, moving on to the next match, we got, we're going to talk about Britt Baker's match versus Statlander there briefly. I think that was probably Britt Baker's best title match, or title defense. I think that was her best match, one of her top matches that she's had. And Statlander put a lot out there, so I think that was a really good check mark for criteria for her down the road to be yeah, okay, at some point you'll probably be a champion, just not yet. So I think that's one of those ones that you put in the history books for her to check off.
Yeah, her boss said the same thing. It was her best match, just mentioned. I like the segment with it was a cool pendulum knee flip, but then she kind of missed and then bunged up her knee and then the curve stomp, and then you see Orange Cassidy so animated,
showing his the most enthusiasm Orange Cassidy has ever shown wasn't even in his match. He's and then that power summoned Chris Statlander. It projected her into the ring.
I think it could have backfired, right? She could be so stunned. She's like, "Who are you?" and then I think it counted out.
Well, yeah, that was interesting to see. All of a sudden, Orange Cassidy, a different emotion, and it's not even in one of his matches. So, it's the little things that sort of you pick up, in wrestling that works. You pick it up in metal. It's a little thing. Mangas, comics, it's those little things that sort of make something even more memorable, right? We'll remember that now. All because of that. That'll probably be one of the most memorable parts of that match. So that's neat when they sort of throw some of that stuff in there. The next match was probably one of the best tag matches I've ever seen. But that's pretty much whatever happens when the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros get into a match together. It was really good. I liked that there was a lot of variables though. You had a lot of you had aerial stuff, but you had a lot of hard hitting. You had some hardcore, violent, tough moments. You had some high spots, but it was this mix of variables, sort of. It wasn't just oh, let's just do all flash flying off the cage. That's Phoenix jobs mostly, what he did. And Pentagon, or Pentel Cerro Miedo, took the abuse, the bloody abuse mostly. And then so there was, I just liked it that everybody sort of played a different role and not just the same role, which they all could do.
I think this is the best match of the pay-per-view. This is
I agree with you.
Thing. It was like you said, it was back and forth, just crazy. There's too many moments to mention. I love how Phoenix and Nick were just scaling the ropes and competing against, battling against each other.
Two of the best rope guys.
Yeah, and then And then the young boy throws in the shoes with the needles on the bottom.
The super thumbtack shoe.
I was like, oh man, that's mean.
Yeah, and automatically once I saw that, I'm like, that's going to be meant for Pentagon. Like, I just, his history, and that's what I mean by like each sort of wrestler and played a different type of role in that match. So, it sort of stands out and makes it memorable in that sense. So it was, yeah, incredible match. Definitely, like you said, it's a show stealer. The next match on the card, I believe, was MJF versus Chris Jericho in that match. Yeah, like, I think there was some decent moments. He had his Asai moonsault, MJF, which was kind of random. I kept saying that CM Punk needed to one-up him by doing his own. Because I was like, how dare you gotta do one, right? You're letting this guy do it. But.
Yeah, we never saw that. It's cool to see Jericho's entrance. He had like a part of a Fozzy come out and like
his guitar player come out, yeah.
Guitar player. And it was funny where he MJF bumped up his back on that powerbomb on the corner, and it looked like he was like dying. He's like, my back.
He Conor McGregor'd his back, as Don Callis would say. He Conor McGregor'd him. He's like, And the most talked about match on the card is easily CM Punk and Darby Allin. A lot of expectations going into like you said, is Darby going to carry the match? What's CM Punk going to be able to do? What's his cardio going to be like? What's his moves? Like, how's this going to play out? It was a little slower. Like, he did a lot of, headlocks. He was doing the old Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 8, I think it was. Lay on that headlock. But he did have some moments that he was able to do. He took some good shots from Darby. Like we were playing off speech bubbles in his mind. God damn, why did I get back into this? Like, oh jeez. He's like, whispering to him, why are you going so hard? And then he goes hard. He's like, I thought I told you to stop going hard.
This hurts so much.
Yeah, so I think it was definitely a strong match though. But like, I wouldn't say Darby carried it, but like I definitely think he did the majority.
Yeah, and then one of that spots, I was like kind of worried about Darby. Looked like he darn near broke his back in half with that post. Like, at first I'm like, you hear like a loud ding. I'm like, I hope that's not the back of his head, but then it's like his back. So I'm like, oh man, his back is like dying.
Yeah, and you could easily see it like reddening up right away. Like, he definitely made some moments in that match to help stand out and make it more memorable, I guess.
Yeah, and I like the bit of like the humor moments where like he does the coffin drop and then Darby's like go to sleep kind of thing, and then Punk just sits up and he like laughs at him. He's like, "Ha, you suckers!"
The next match was a short one. I picked QT Marshall because I had to like sort of shift our picks for it because I was like, I didn't want us to have the exact same one. So I was like, oh, QT Marshall will win by like Billy Gunn coming in again or interference. But, instead Paul White just like, just manhandled everybody.
Obliterated him.
So, and that was good. It was short, easy, something simple for him to get back in the ring and do. Don't drag it out.
Yeah, bada bing, bada boom. He just finished him, choke slammed him, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, you don't need a long dragged out match for this type of situation or battle between those two. So, and then on to the big main event, Kenny Omega defending his championship against Christian Cage. I think this is Christian Cage's best match. He showed a lot of fucking durability. Added a bit more things to his arsenal within the match. There was definitely a lot of like structured spots. To me, I mentioned this to you, that it felt like a Bret Hart match. The way it was plotted and moved around, and like you could just see them working together. It's like, okay, these are our areas, these are our focal points, and then everything was strategically done in there. Like they did a really good job of keeping it flowing and stuff. A few big moments here and there, a few violent moments here and there, hard hitting. Nothing too greasy either.
Yeah, I like the table spots where like the first one is not the tradition of put you through a table. He like puts a table over him and then stomps them. And then the second spot was
Christian getting almost
impaled by
the legs popped through and caught him in the ribs. That's what I mean. It really showed his durability in this match, his toughness, because I think he took some really heavy shots. Especially Kenny was like, I noticed that it seemed like his V triggers were a little light in the beginning, and then he started like sort of laying him on a bit more, because I noticed he definitely like slapped him with one, and I think he caught him under the chin a little bit with another one that he hit him here and it came up. So Christian definitely showed quite a bit in that. I definitely like the table spots as well. I love when he goes back to his New Japan and spikes his feet through, eat that Okada, So yeah, there's definitely a lot of, and the huge finish, right? Tremendous finish that the Avalanche one-winged angel. You know, you don't really see that happen a lot. I've seen it, I guess, a couple of times. They did the Sammy off of that,
Yeah.
back in the Stadium Stampede. But I thought this one, you know, doing it to Christian, bit bigger, bit heavier. I was a bit surprised that they did that, but I think it was a good way to go.
Yeah. When you see him like counter into that, I'm like, oh, this is it. He's gonna die like in 10 seconds.
Yeah, like I did, you know, there was the countering and stuff, so wasn't sure it was gonna happen, but then it did, and it was done. And then you have, I think, sort of this crazy ass ending with the huge, you know, this appearances from Adam Cole, and then all of a sudden you get a double whammy and Bryan Danielson comes out. You're like loading up on this huge ending. It's just like, you know, the whole pay-per-view you're waiting for Bryan Danielson to show up, and then Adam Cole does, so you're like, oh, maybe he's not showing up, and then he shows up afterwards, and you're like, oh.
That was funny, because like this guy was just saying like, oh, this could be a double whammy. They give us Adam Cole to fake us out, and then Danielson will come out with
Daniel
the crowds will go crazy.
Yeah, it was probably, I think, one of the most memorable nights in not AEW, just AEW history, but wrestling history, because you had those two arrive at the end. You had CM Punk returning for his first match in 7 years. You had Ruby Soho show up in the Women's Battle Royal to win it. You know, right? Like
the Butcher returning.
Oh yeah, like I was like, I kept thinking, like, we even mentioned that, like, he should show up through the ring, but he did show up, not just through the ring though, but like he did show up. I was mentioning that he should, or sometime soon, but yeah, you had all this, quite a bit going on. You had all these different varying matches. You had your meat and potatoes match. You had your technical match. Your violent high flying. You had something for everybody, sort of. So it was quite a night. Definitely on my rating scale, or our rating scale, good, great, awesome, amazing, spectacular, and fantastique. Fantastique. I'm gonna give it a Bjorn.
I was thinking spectacular, but I think you're right. I think they bump it up to fantastic. It was just an amazing show altogether, and that finish, it just bumped it up from spectacular to fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is I think it's just because of how memorable now that night will be.
Yeah,
why it's there. Maybe it wasn't as high flying and exciting and as energetic as maybe, you know, Triple A Mania would be like, or you know, Lucha Underground, but it sort of had these story match played out, and the significance of so much, and it was what made it pretty special. So, and
even with some of the top stars, like I think it was Adam Cole mentioned, like this was like his favorite moment. Like he's had so many favorite moments like throughout his career, and like this is just the entrance kind of thing, right? So like this is a big deal.
Yeah, and then you know this catapults AEW into what's next. You got all these people that could be facing you. You didn't even have Malachi Black on this card. Pac and Andrade El Idolo was canceled. You didn't even have all these.
Don't Tomo's fault. He canceled the flight. Cancel all the flights.
You know, you didn't have Lance Archer on this card. Like you didn't have all like some of these.
There's no Cowboy.
That's what I mean. Is like, and it was still that good. Holy shit,
they got a lot of stars. Man. A lot of star power.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
It's pretty crazy. And on top of it, you got all the potential crossovers with New Japan guys. Well, what happens if Jay White shows up and wants to kick Adam Cole's ass? Anyways, tell us what your thoughts if you watched it down below in the comments. And feel free to check out my other channels down in the description as well. My metal channel, comics, all that good stuff. And until next time, folks, heavy wrestling.